your hand, and we'll get you a mic. We'll start. We'll go back to back right here to Zach and Daniel, and then move about the room.
Daniel McFadden, FrenchChurch.com. Jeff, in your career, you were part of multiple transitions from one generation of car to another, and I'm curious with this next gen car and what you know about it. What kind of difficulties do you think drivers will have when it comes to maybe getting over old habits that they developed in the previous generations that might not work or agree with this car that we're about to get ready to see unleashed?
Yeah, well, obviously, there's a lot of differences with this car. So, I would point out at the most obvious ones, the underwing, right? We talk about this car being a flat bottom car and all the air moving underneath that car, the rear diffuser. How does that react, to each race surface, each style of racetrack, and how much can you depend on that? How much can you lean on that? How much, does that change as the ride height of the car goes through the different bump variations? And then add on top of that, a much bigger wheel, aluminum wheel, but then you have a lower profile tire. So same kind of thing is, where is the edge? It's still a race car. You still push it to the limits, and I think that's what we've got a lot of confidence in our talented drivers that they're going to be able to do, is find out where that limit and that edge is, and then just stay right within it. But it's definitely going to take some time for them to figure out at each track where that is and exactly how far they can, yaw the car out to find speed.
Zach Sturniolo with FrontStretch.com. Jeff, you've been a driver in a position where you've had a car on the front row for the Daytona 500, and then you go into the duel trying to just maintain the car at that point and just get that car to Sunday so you don't risk losing it before the 500. This is obviously a unique situation this year with the parts supply shortage. What advice do you give your drivers heading into tonight as they approach this, as of course the rest of the field does, but particularly with two cars on the front row?
Well, I think the first thing you have to recognize is that when you have a car that's run up front that you believe is capable of winning the Daytona 500, regardless of even if you're locked in or just where our guys are all qualifying in the top 5, you don't want to wreck a race car. You don't want to have to go to a backup car. I think we want them to go out there and find out what the car is capable of doing. How just like most duels, you want to get yourself in a position to learn what it's going to take with this car to go put yourself in position to win the Daytona 500, but not take too much risk. And that's what race car drivers do. It's risk management all the time. And so, the guidance is certainly going to be, don't tear it up, but that's always been the case down here. But if it does happen, then we'll adjust and deal with what we've got to do next.
We'll go up here to Jenna, then Bob, then go to the left.
Hi, guys. Jeff, what's your life like these days? What's a day look like for you, and how's he doing with his life, Mr. H?
He's coming to work early. He's getting up at 8 o'clock. He's at the office.
Well, after I dropped the kids off, then I'm on my way. So he left me a note. What was the note you said? One day he came to visit me. Was it when I'm officially in this role? I think it was a year or two ago, and he left me a note on my desk. He said my working hours are, I think it was 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., maybe even 7 p.m. I can't remember. I knew I could never live up to that. He's a hardworking guy, but I got a real job, that's for sure, and I'm loving it.
He's doing a great job. He's doing a great job. He's showing up on time with his game face on.
So, I mean, it's an actual, office job for you, Jeff?
It is. I told Rick it took me 50 years before I finally had a real job, an office job. But, yeah, I've got a desk and an office, and I try to be there every day. It depends on the needs. I mean, sometimes the needs are maybe away from the racetrack. But I feel like I am one of the luckiest guys in the world because I got to drive for an amazing owner, then got to be partners with him along the way. And now I get to kind of pay him back for the opportunities that he's given me and so many others. And also I get to still be a part of racing in a way that I really couldn't imagine. And you know, over time I started really enjoying more of the business side. Started with the licensing and merchandising side of it, but it then quickly grew into, you know, what do our sponsors need and what do our teams need, and the resources that he's provided and our sponsors have provided, and how that relates to you know, to a great experience for our drivers to go out and drive great cars and equipment and hopefully go battle for championships. So I'm really enjoying being on this side of it, and I think I'm surprised at how much I'm enjoying the connection, you know, that I'm making. I always thought, well, if I'm not the one driving the car, then the championships or the wins won't ever mean as much. But I beg to differ. I think that in some ways this is as rewarding, in other ways even more rewarding, because I'm connecting with Rick. Number one, I mean, the amount of time we're spending face to face on the phone. Marshall Carlson, I know he's in here. Jeff Andrews, Chackenhouse, and all the drivers, and it just the list goes on and how deep Hendrick Motorsports is. And so I'm really enjoying the time I get to spend with them and seeing their daily routine and effort to make Hendrick Motorsports so great.
And I wanted to ask you, the 4 drivers came through yesterday, and they all talked a little bit about how you want them to step outside of their comfort zones, which Bowman thought meant go run dirt races.
They can interpret it however they want to interpret it.
So I'm wondering, you know, what spaces do you want to push them into?
Yeah, well, we have 2 levels of meetings, right? There's the competition meetings, and honestly, I think that they're doing the same thing in the competition meeting. The crew chief and the team is constantly evolving and pushing the limits of the car and asking the drivers to push the limits, whether it's on pit road and trying to manage pit road speed or restart. So I think it's the same thing. It's anything that and I know I heard Denny say it's got to happen organically. No doubt. I want it to happen organically. I want them to be true to who they are, but don't just get comfortable and stay there. And I think more of what I'm talking about, I like them doing that on the racetrack too. But to me, it's more on the marketing, the branding side. It helps us, you know, talk to our sponsors, and so that could be on social media. That could be when they're out with fans. It could be when they're out racing other things. You know, it's really up to them to decide how they want to do that. But I definitely want to set some goals for them in that case.
Go to Mike. Or sorry, go ahead, Bob, then Mike, then Peter.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. Jeff, you said, you know, if something did happen to one of the cars today, there'd kind of be a plan of action. So, like, do you guys have a hauler in North Carolina ready to come? Or, like, if something happened, would you just try to get something here Friday and practice Saturday? And if nothing happens, are you guys sending parts back to North Carolina either tonight or tomorrow?
I don't want to speculate too much, but I think the goal for us is to evaluate the situation first, see, you know, is this something that can be fixed here at the racetrack with either equipment we already have or equipment we can get from here, suppliers here at the track. And then, you know, we definitely have cars in North Carolina ready to go if we need them, but they're not here, you know, in Daytona right now. And I think it's because Daytona is unique. We have a couple days after this race tonight before Sunday. And we want to have the best race car we possibly could have to go win the race, regardless whether it's the primary we brought here or if it's a backup.
Mike?
Mike Henry from Auto Week. Jeff, do you know yet what you're going to be doing during races? Are you going to sit on a pit box? Are you going to move around from team to team? How's that going to work?
I just follow his lead when it comes to that. I mean, I will say that's the toughest part for me is when you were on the race team as a driver. It was a very clear role of what what you had to do. You know, most of what I've seen so far in the expectations of the job is happening before the race starts. Once the green flag drops, I'm just a cheerleader and a fan and supporting the teams in their efforts. And I learned basically, everything that I'm doing in this job from Rick. But we spent time over the last several years when I wasn't working with Fox at the racetrack and walking down pit road and talking to the teams and sitting up on the pit boxes. But I can't help but take notes also while I'm up there, just because I might be in the debrief on Monday or Tuesday too, to just see if there's any area that I can add and have some positive impact.
Go Mark, and then
Were you going to say something?
I was just going to trying to find a seat.
Yeah, exactly. In Phoenix, that was tough, but that's a good problem to have when we have that many sponsors.
Which box do you want to be on? Then you walk all the way to the other end of the pit road. There's too many people up there and you're running.
That was one of my initiatives over the offseason was more seats on the pit boxes. Oh, yeah. I will touch on this real quick. We have one of the most unique fan and not just fan, but guest experience that you can possibly have in all of racing. There's no other sport you can go sit on a pit box where the race cars are going by at 200 miles per hour, and the engineers and the people making the decisions, the pit crews that are doing the pit stops are literally feet in front of you, and you get that type of enhanced experience. So to me that's an area that we want to just continue to evolve and push and work with NASCAR and the tracks and our sponsors of how we can enhance that experience, because it's a great one.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Rick, as we get deeper into the development of the next gen car, are you more convinced, and why this is a good step forward for the longevity of the teams, the buildup of other people coming into the sport and so on that we've been talking about the last few months? Now that we're in there, are you seeing more benefits, or it's all you thought it would be?
I definitely see a lot of new faces and new teams trying to be formed and are formed. I mean, it's easier for them to get in the business. They can buy a car and hire a small crew, and they can rent engines from us or Ford or Childress. And so the cost of entry now is it's just a fraction of what it would be before this car. So I think it levels the playing field, and I've heard a lot of the new owners say that, and look at the way some of those cars have run, just to move up into the series, and they're right up front. So everybody's got the same thing. You can't, it's still up to the crew chief. It's still up to the driver and the setups, but NASCAR's got it so tight in a box that if you want to race now, you don't have to go hire a ton of engineers. So I think we kind of like it the old way, but
We're a little biased.
yeah, but because you work many, many years and you develop people and systems, and this is the way you work. But I think it's good for the sport. It's bringing a lot of new faces in, and a lot of it's going to show you who the talent is in the drivers now. So I think it's really good for the sport.
How has it affected those people and systems differently?
Well, luckily Marshall Carlson's here, president of our company. We used to build our own chassis. Now we build chassis for the military. So we found things for our people to do, and so it's worked out really well. And hats off to Marshall, because he's developed a big relationship with the military and the military inside General Motors, and so we're pretty busy keeping all of our folks going.
Claire? If you want to, Lisa, if you bring the mic to Claire while you do that. Amanda, you want to give the mic to Dustin?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. For both of you, I just want to get your impressions of the Clash at the Coliseum, a very different type of event for this sport, and certainly also from the perspective that you had one of your vehicles not in the main event and didn't get as much of that time, how you dealt with the sponsor and just kind of the impact of the overall event, but also how it impacted that operation.
Well, I think it was a terrific event. I had no idea what it would be like, and seeing all those young fans and such a high percentage that have never been to a NASCAR race. So I thought that was really, really neat. And Alex was that close to being in the final, and he got a lot of time on TV, and the race trying to move up. So I love the heat races. I know my wife said, "Boy, I love these short races," and so I think it was a terrific show. I applaud NASCAR for doing it. I think we created a lot of new fans. I think we ought to find ways to do more of it.
Yeah, I would just add that what I like about the heat races and the last chance races is that they actually meant something. That there was urgency and there was a need to advance into that position and take some risk. And I think that in order to have that, you're going to have to give up something, which means that not every car is going to be guaranteed to make it in on a track that's that size. But they also, were able to get TV coverage to maybe some new sponsors and some new teams. And ours, like in Alex's case, I mean, he qualified the night before. He was in the heat race in the last chance race, and it was an exciting part of the event. So it got coverage, but it was still disappointing that he wasn't in the final.
And one other thing is Rick, when are we going to hear contract extensions in regards to Chase and William?
Probably anytime pretty soon. I want those guys to be with us forever, and that they've told me they want to be here. So I'd say you should hear something from that here pretty soon.
Claire?
Claire Belang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. One for Rick and one for Jeff. Rick, yesterday I was talking about qualifying to people like Kyle Busch, who said they don't put a lot into their qualifying. He figured that somebody from Hendrick would get the pole, and you did. Why is the pole so important at Daytona for you? Does it take away at all from what you have to put into the race, or are they sort of equal? It helps the race once you get the pole for the Daytona 500.
There's a tremendous amount of pride in our organization for sitting on the pole at Daytona. To us, that's just a race all on its own. And to come down to Daytona, this is the Super Bowl, and to be the guys that sit on the front row or the pole, that's bragging rights and guaranteed starting spot. And I think our team, our organization, feels like this is a race of that pole run. It's something that all of them have to work on. Everybody from the aero department, the engine department, everybody has their fingers in it, and to get the cars to run that fast. So I've been down here when I had no shot at the pole, and it's a whole lot more fun to be on the pole.
Congratulations on the pole, Rick. And Jeff, now that you're in the upper level of management, I was thinking, when you were a driver, you were always on time. You really did fit into the business side of it. But now, do you ever sit back at your desk and realize things that you're like, if you were a driver, you didn't, like Jeff Gordon didn't realize when he was a driver, that you see on this side of it, either in competition or in business, and it sort of hits you like, whoa.
You don't get to comment on it. I'm just waiting. I know what's coming.
On grounds that might incriminate me.
I have learned a lot, Claire. I mean, over all the years, just maturing. I mean, I came in at a young age, and I was able to have success at a young age, and so I made a lot of mistakes at a young age too. But I always have prided myself on trying to learn from those mistakes and get better in every step of the way as a driver, as a husband and a father and as a business owner too. So no doubt the last 5-6 years since I've been out of the car, I've learned a tremendous amount just because of how much time you get to spend focusing on it. I was so focused on driving the race car that's what I wanted to be the best at, and I worked really hard at that, but it takes away from the ability to learn other areas of the sport. But I certainly take a lot of that from the driving side of it too. But I think that working with Fox, I learned a lot about TV and the production, what kind of a team effort is put into that to produce the races, and how important the entertainment value and the personalities are that make up that broadcast. And then, of course, with Rick, whether it's on the automotive side, with the dealerships, or at motorsports, and all the amazing people like Marshall that I'm having a blast working with and learning a lot from. Just the team aspect of how many people it takes to put together a quality race team, and 4 quality race teams that we have, and how fortunate we are to have so many smart people that enjoy coming to work, working in a great culture. And all I want to do is do my part to maintain that vision that Rick's leadership set forth many years ago.
No, we have some more questions, but we got time for one more. We'll end here with Chase.
Jeff, you were a part of some pretty talented teams at Team Hendrick, obviously with teammates like Jimmy and Dale Jr., Kyle Busch. But looking at these 4 drivers, all under the age of 30, is this maybe the best collection of talent that you've seen come through those doors?
Definitely, and it's if you got to take all the components, right? I think it's the young driver lineup and talent that we have there, along with the chemistry that they have with their crew chiefs and car chiefs and pit crew. It's where Hendrick Motorsports is at right now, at the top of their game. So I think you put all those parts and pieces together. It certainly is a fun time to be a part of Hendrick Motorsports. But those teams right now are fun to watch, just fun to listen to, and also I think the systems that are in place right now and how they can transfer the information around. And Rick alluded to it, but to have those 4 cars come down here and be that close to one another shows you what's happening inside the company, inside the walls, and how they're sharing information, what they're doing with the information, how they're pushing one another. And I think that's one of our strengths right now. And our driver lineup is doing that very, very well. They're constantly pushing one another, learning from one another, and also wanting to outdo one another. So, but all in a positive, good way. I think that, you've got Chase, who's the veteran now at Hendrick, and he's just in a very comfortable place, knows what he's capable of doing, knows what his team's capable of doing. And I think, that he's just rock solid, especially on the long runs. You got Kyle Larson came in and certainly set the world on fire last year. And I think he's obviously blended in well between he and Cliff and the team. But when you take Alex and you take William, I think these guys, even though Alex won 4 races last year, he was disappointed that he didn't get further into the playoffs. I think both those 2 guys are really at this point of about to break out to be real superstars in the sport. So I'm excited to see how that unfolds and evolves for those 2 guys.
Okay, Rick, Jeff, thank you so much for all your time, and good luck tonight and on Sunday.
Thank you.
Questions from press box?
We just wrapped.